Boom. What is going on, ladies and gentlemen? Welcome back to the Weekend Preview with myself, Adam Beadle, here on Hypermarks. Glad to be with you on this wonderful Friday afternoon. There's a lot to look forward to this weekend. A lot to talk about that happened last weekend. There's so much excitement this weekend. And it feels like this is excitement that's been building up since Monday, because it really just has been a great last couple of weeks. Not just with Arizona sports, but sports overall. A lot of exciting things, and obviously, I'm sure you know there's a big game going on tomorrow night in Mountain America Stadium between the 21st ranked Sun Devils and the 14th ranked BYU Cougars, which should just be a ton of fun. This is a game that is almost a decade in the making, dating back to I think one of the bigger games in 2014 when Notre Dame came to town playing Arizona State and what was essentially for a college football playoff bid. I actually remember being at that game in 2014. It was a whole lot of fun. It was a great experience. And ASU Stadium is a little bit smaller now than it was then. So obviously not as big of a crowd, but a sold out crowd tomorrow at Mountain America Stadium. It should be a lot of fun. Me and Jacob Saliga are going to talk about more about that one in just a moment. But first, just going on some random stuff. I always like to just talk about some things that are happening in the world at the beginning of the show. Kendrick Lamar is dropping an album today. I listened to the whole thing. It's pretty good. I think that he's just so good, bro. He's the GOAT. Like, I think there's no way around it. No other excuses to make. Like, Kendrick Lamar is just a legend. And it was a pretty good album. I liked the first song, the way it introed. And then the last song with SZA was really good too. So lots of good stuff there. Talking about the Phoenix Suns, not sure what's going on with the Suns. They've dropped their last 5 in a row. I know they've got injuries with Durant and with Beal. I went to the Magic game on Monday. That was just rough. I mean, the Suns, they couldn't rebound. They just weren't hitting shots. And Book is also still kind of in like a dry spell. He hasn't really like gotten going this season. So I think once Booker, and I don't know what that is, because Booker's always sort of had a good start to the year. I mean, he had a really solid start to the year last year. And this is the first time really he's kind of like slowed down in a sense, which I don't really think he's slowing down at all. I think this is his ninth year in the NBA, which is crazy to think. He was drafted in I think 2015 or 14. So and that's crazy that was that long ago. I think Booker was in 2015. I would have been in like 4th grade. So that's crazy to think in itself. But yeah, also a big video game guy. OG Fortnite is coming back, and I'm gonna be playing that, of course. The double pump is coming back. OG. So I'm very excited. Once Christmas break rolls around and football's over, it's gonna be Fortnite for a solid week. Just getting back home, playing with the boys. A lot of my friends are down in Tucson, so I don't really get to see them too much. And I also get to troll them a little bit with the Wildcats in the season that they're having. But lots of exciting stuff to look forward to. Some of the stuff we'll talk about today. Me and Jacob Saliga pre-recorded a little bit of an ASU segment earlier. I'm gonna play in a few seconds, but some of the stuff we're gonna talk about later in the show. Obviously, Open Division playoffs start today. It's a really big deal. If you haven't seen Arizona football's video on Twitter, I think it's on Instagram too. Go check it out. Gave me chills. Super cool. Super good video. So that's lots to look forward to there on the high school scene tonight. I'm going to be out at South Point and Mountain View tonight. Should be a really great game. I'm going to be doing some video stuff, trying to work on my videography skills. A multimedia specialist over here at Hypermark. Just one quick announcement. There's already been a couple of head coaching changes here in the Valley. Rick Garrettson announcing his retirement from Chandler, and Corona del Sol head coach Jake Barrow stepping down. So we've got two big spots to fill here in the state of Arizona, and so it'll be interesting to see how those job searches search up and what those schools decide to do. But yeah, so without further ado, Jacob Saliga joining me now on the Weekend Preview. On everybody, and welcome back into the Weekend Preview. I'm Adam Beadle alongside the one, the only Jacob Saliga, our Hypermark college football writer. Jacob, it's college football final stretch here the last couple of weeks, and things are starting to really matter. We got the Big 12 championship race heating up. We got several other conferences who are, in their final push. Teams trying to make their conference championship. We also got the college football playoff rankings, which have been a lot of fun to watch over the first couple of weeks that they've been around this season. And for starters, Arizona State finding themselves in the CFP rankings, coming in number 21 this week.
Yeah, this home stretch of the season is going to be quite entertaining these final few weeks. We talk about how impressive it is. Since the 2021 season got vacated, same with 2020 and everything. This is the first time since 2014 Arizona State is ranked technically in the
Yeah.
college football playoff rankings. So it's a monumentous progression for the program, and it's big this week. This game and this team is getting national recognition, national spotlight, um, which, considering what Desmond Howard said on College Game Day last Saturday morning, is it's quite fitting that that is the case. So there is no bigger and better time to be an Arizona State Sun Devil fan. Homecoming weekend, big game. So this is going to be a fun one.
Yeah, let's talk about this Kansas State game from last week. It was really just all ASU in that first half. They were just in complete control, shutting down DJ Giddens. Second half kind of had some moments, a little bit of a couple of rough patches, but nonetheless, Arizona State ended up pulling it out, and a big game from Sam Levitt and Jordan Tyson once again.
Yeah, this is the third game in a row that Sam Levitt has thrown for 3 touchdowns and 0 interceptions since coming back from his injury sustained against Utah. Jordan Tyson has only gotten better as the season has gone on. It seems like every single week we're talking about him taking another step and another step and another step. And last week he was the best wide receiver in the country. 12 receptions, 176 yards, 2 touchdowns. He was tearing up a really solid Kansas State defense, and it was quite impressive to see. And so, just overall, like you mentioned, Arizona State jumping on them early, 24-0, shocking the crowd in Manhattan, taking them out of the game. And yes, they did have a few bumps along the way, but overall, they buckled down and didn't really let the game really slip back into Kansas State's hands. They controlled the time of possession when they needed to. They sustained drives and they put together a 4-quarter football game. And now it heads into this week where no, everything is still on the line. And we talked about it last week. We said this in the preview. If ASU contained Dylan Edwards and contained DJ Giddens and did not allow them to get going, Arizona State was going to find themselves comfortably in control. They did that for 2.5 quarters, and it was 24-0. Then the second that DJ Giddens was able to start popping runs, getting into the second level, suddenly Kansas State has 2 touchdowns, and that lead shrinks to 10. And so the big thing is going to be, all right, can the defensive line and can the defense as a whole hold up against some of these better running backs again as we get closer to potentially a conference championship? And who knows, maybe even a potential college football playoff quarterfinal.
That do you think that you can you imagine that you're even saying those words compared to with this team that I mean, you and me were just talking about it not too long ago. Like it's crazy to think that Arizona State is in this situation right now.
Yeah, what's also impressive is that 2 years ago, this upcoming week, Kenny Dillingham took the job at
Yeah.
ASU. And he said Arizona State, in his first press conference, he said Arizona State is a place where you can win it. And we've seen it before. Like Todd Graham had some success here. As much as a lot of ASU people dislike him, Herm Edwards had some success early on here. Dennis Erickson had some success. Like, it is possible to have success here, but
Mhm.
building sustained success and getting to that next level is something that really ASU hasn't seen since what, Bruce Snyder, maybe,
Yeah.
when they got to the Rose Bowl. So I think with Kenny Dillingham, I think he'll even be the first to tell you, as much as they expected to, take those steps forward and to get into a position to be a strong program, I don't think anybody, maybe besides themselves inside the program, thought that they would be in this position this quickly into his tenure. We're only on season number 2, and ASU is at the potential for what, 10, 11 wins, maybe even
Yeah.
more if they get hot, if they continue their hot streak. So this is quite impressive to see just how quick the turnaround has happened. And you're 100% right. Who would have thought after how last season went that, and especially how the offense kind of looked in spring ball and early on during fall camp, that this is where the team would be.
Yeah. Yeah, I think, and Dillingham even said after the game against Kansas State that ASU is way far ahead than where he originally thought they would be at this point in time. So I think if your head coach is even thinking that, I think that's huge. I want to go back to talking about Sam Levitt and his performance. Sam Levitt, currently the nation's highest graded PFF freshman. Arizona State got a real dude in Sam Levitt who came over this spring from Michigan State and has started all season except one game for Arizona State. Um, and he's had a heck of a coordinator, heck of a play caller that's been by his side this year, Marcus Arroyo, who also coached Justin Herbert when he was at Oregon during his freshman year. So, now we're kind of starting to see this thing. There's a lot of parallels between Sam Levitt's, I guess, freshman year. He's a redshirt freshman. So Sam Levitt's freshman year and Justin Herbert's freshman year. How important is that to see the growth and development of Sam Levitt? To also, now we're talking about the things where ASU might have to be in the conversation about really trying to retain their coordinators, and it's not just Marcus Arroyo, it's Brian Ward as well.
Brian Ward, yeah. I think, and I know, I know you were watching last night Josh Pate's CFB show. Kenny Dillingham had a sit down with him, and he talked about that. No, it is a positive thing for a program to be in a position where your coordinators are coveted like that. And
Yeah.
truth be told, I think too, we kind of discussed this before the season started. If the offense was going to progress, if the offense was going to become what it was going to become, Marcus Arroyo wasn't somebody who was penciled in to be in Tempe for long per se, because truthfully, he should have never gotten let go as quickly as he did at UNLV. You got to let go early. And really, you're seeing a lot of what he did, a lot of the players he brought in, and a lot of staff that he brought in that was kept around when Barry Odom came in, be what's effective right there at UNLV right now, who's possibly going to go 10-2. And so I think with Arroyo, you see what made him so special during his time at Oregon, and you see what made him special during his time at UNLV. It's his ability to play to his players' strengths. He's not trying to make Sam Levitt be something he's not. He's not trying to make Sam Levitt be strictly a pocket passer, be strictly this guy where it's just like, hey, you're going to do this, 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 and this.
Yeah.
You see, as the season has gone on, it's almost like Sam Levitt has kind of had the freedom to kind of do what he wants on the field and be able to just play his style of football.
Yeah.
No, the Herbert parallels are the same. It's also similar. Kenny Dillingham has brought up Bo Nix a lot when talking about Sam Levitt. You see the parallels like it. Sam Levitt can run, but he isn't. His first instinct isn't to run. He's smart about it. He's picking and choosing. He's sliding now, which early on
I
in the
think I was
season,
gonna say I think sometimes Sam Levitt's first instinct would like to be to run. I'm sure that gets shut down a lot.
And then too, I do think what parallels you kind of do see a little bit too is just it's a blessing and a curse. His kind of over reliance on Jordan Tyson. You saw
Yeah.
Herbert during his time at Oregon. Man, there was a Chandler wide receiver. He was at Oregon, and that was Herbert's guy. He was on that team that lost to ASU. Um,
Oh man, I can't remember. I know who you're talking about. I
you
can't
know,
remember his name off the top of my head.
Johnny Johnson, something like that. I don't know. Was it something Johnson? I don't
I
know.
don't know.
But
I'll you
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 we
you keep going. I'm gonna figure this out.
yeah, like you see a lot of parallels between guys like that where Herbert had that trust, had that reliance on him. And so I think that what's going to help Sam Levitt is that you saw with Dillingham and Sagatuilele in the portal this year is that they have a specific type of offensive line that they like. They have a specific type of offensive lineman that they would like to bring in. And so with that being the case, you're going to see, as long as Sam Levitt is a Sun Devil, even if it isn't necessarily guys that they bring in per se through traditional high school recruiting, he's probably going to have an O line that is built to play with a QB like him. And it's going to be built to get him going. And I think what's going to be interesting too, that also will help Sam Levitt. Jordan Tyson will be around for a while, as long as he maybe doesn't get poached away by a bigger school in the portal. But with what Graham Rossini is saying NIL wise, that might not happen. And two, with how attractive they have been with the running back position and how well they played in the Cam Scatterby. The Carlos Brooks is graduating. Yes, they have Kyson Brown and Jason Brown who's in waiting. They have a couple of guys who may be around. There is a possibility where a very attractive and very great running back currently in college football may look at ASU and be like, that's a place where I can go, where I know I have a good quarterback. I know I have a good O-line. I know I have an offense coordinator and head coach who can play to my
Yeah.
strengths. Let me go there. So honestly, like Sam Levitt is getting a lot of pressure taken off of him, which is big for a redshirt freshman. And it plays into why Marcus Arroyo is probably going to be a highly coveted coordinator for maybe it's a bigger job or maybe it is for a head coaching job this cycle.
Yeah, I think though if ASU does manage to hold on to Marcus Arroyo and Brian Ward and retain them for another year with the recruiting class they have right now,
And
they
what
could be
they
really great
probably
next year. And what they'll probably do in the transfer portal this season, that could be huge for Arizona State. And I think a contract extension for Dillingham too should also be something to potentially look at.
Graham Rossini did mention that on 98.7 yesterday when he was talking with Burns and Gambo that they have been in talks and that is their number one priority right now. They want to get him whatever he needs and whatever he wants to keep him comfortable and to keep him here.
Yeah,
Because I don't think Kenny Dillingham is going to leave Arizona State for another college job.
not at all.
I wholeheartedly believe that if Kenny Dillingham leaves Arizona State, it's because it's an NFL head coaching
Yep.
job that comes his way.
Yep.
And so I think with that, you're not seeing college size contracts in terms of money per year per se in the NFL yet, but it's trending that way. And so if ASU can get ahead of the curve and put enough money on the table to where it doesn't look like an attractive option, I think Kenny Dillingham is here for the long run. And it's very possible he could be to ASU what Bill Snyder was to Kansas State, what Mike Gundy is to Oklahoma State, what Kyle Whittingham is to Utah, where they are there for the long haul and build something special.
Absolutely. And I think you got to start like you mentioned from Dillingham's opening press conference, right? From the start, he said this was his dream job.
Yep.
So I think rarely you see anybody, even if not just coaching, but in the real world. I mean, you don't really see people once they're at their dream job, they're kind of there.
Yeah.
Um, the Oregon wide receiver, you thinking of Devin Allen from Brophy? Is that who you're thinking of? Or are you thinking
No,
of Jalen Brown from Mountain Point?
no, they had a Chandler wide receiver. Was it after Herbert during Arroyo's time? There was a Chandler wide receiver. I wish we had Ralph Ames in here because he would know who we're talking about right now.
He probably knows. He definitely knows.
It's oh my god, this is genuinely gonna bother me, and I am gonna
And
be
it's defensive lineman. Yeah, I know. I don't know.
oh man, that's brutal. And maybe it was after Herbert, but I know that there was an Oregon receiver that played at Chandler that was a freaking dog for the Ducks while Arroyo was there. So I gotta that's my job figuring that out.
All right, well, let's move on talking about the matchup this weekend. Number 14, BYU coming to Tempe to play number 21, Arizona State. The Cougars 9-1 on the year, only really expected to win 5 games this season, projected to finish bottom in the bottom third of the conference. Jacob, what are the strengths and the weaknesses of this BYU team?
Well, I think the strengths of this BYU team, you have to start with their defense. They've been one of the better defensive units in the conference this year. They lead the country in interceptions. They are currently top 5 in the country in passing yards allowed per play and are top 5 in the country in passing completion percentage allowed. And so right away, the first thing you think about for Arizona State is like, okay, how can we make the game comfortable for Sam Levitt to where he's not in a vulnerable situation against this really opportunistic secondary. In turn, part of the reason why that secondary has been strong has been because of how effective the pass rush has been for BYU this season. They may not necessarily be getting home and getting sacks, but if you put on the tape, they're getting pressure. They're forcing QBs to speed up their release, to make quicker decisions. That's where you see mistakes prone to happen. They're led by Tyler Batty, who was an all conference player last season and who may be another first team all conference guy this year. He's not putting up the gaudy stats, but he is generating pressure and he's getting into the backfield and making things happen. Linebacker Harrison Taggart is a really solid kid. He leads the team in tackles, came over from Oregon. He's been somebody who is really just taken into his own and has really quarterbacked that defense, if you will. The big weakness, though, I look at this BYU team, and there's two key things. One, their run defense is nowhere near matched what their pass defense has done this year. They've been number 66 in the country in rushing yards allowed per play. You look at the only two really good running backs that they faced this year, and RJ Harvey and Ollie Gordon, and those two running backs ran for 7 and 8 yards per carry against this
Yeah.
BYU team. Both of them had 2 touchdowns in their game, and it wasn't like they were getting heavy dosage. This is only on 16, 17 carries. They were doing this damage. And so you see there's a vulnerability, and a lot of it is in between the tackles. And what does Cam Scadaboo like to do? Run in between the tackles. And so another thing is that you look at this BYU offense, they have stagnated since their bye week. These last 2 games, they have really struggled a lot in terms of getting things going. They've punted the ball 8 times in the last 2 games, which is the most in a 2-game stretch they've had all year. Multiple turnovers. Jake Retzlaff last week had his worst game this season so far. 0 touchdowns, interception, only 194 yards. They can't and then to compliment him, LJ Martin, their running back, he really hasn't done anything outside the Oklahoma State game, which, as we've seen, Oklahoma State has been arguably the worst defense in college football this year. And so the offense doesn't look as strong as it appeared early on in the season, mostly because a lot of the points BYU puts up, special teams, defensive scores. So if Arizona State's defense does its job, BYU is really in trouble because they've really struggled to move the ball down the field and get points up. And they currently are 122nd in the country in touchdown conversions in the red zone. So they get down there, but they're kicking field goals. And eventually, when you're trading 7 for 3, it comes back to bite you.
Yeah, absolutely. And ASU's defensive line, I'm sure, will play a good part in preventing those touchdowns like they have done all year for the most part. I think that's also probably one of the harder defensive lines BYU is going to face this season. But talking about the offense, you mentioned some of the weaknesses in BYU's run defense. How much does a good game from Cam Scadaboo, a good performance from Cam Scadaboo matter for ASU in this game?
I think the magic number is 100. If Cam Scadaboo gets to 100 yards, I don't see a world where Arizona State loses this game. Kansas last week had its worst offensive output of the season. Credit BYU's strong passing defense for that. But they also, for the first time this year, looked effective against the run. But that's because Kansas likes to run more sweeps, likes to get to the boundary. They don't want to go in between the tackles and punch you in the mouth. And so Devin Neal was bottled up to about 50 yards in that game. And to most, it looks like, oh, that was a great job by their run defense, when in reality, it played to BYU's strengths. If Cam Scadaboo is getting 100 yards and he's doing it in the way we've seen this year, where he's going in between the tackles, where it's dives, where it's traps, where it's power, where it's not sweeps and it's not tosses, Cam Scadaboo will be effective. And so I think you're 100. I think it's 100% right in saying that Cam Scadaboo needs to have a good game in this matchup. And I think he will. I think he's the best player on both sides of the ball in this matchup. And so I think as long as he is able to do his job in the running game, but also provide a little bit of an outlet in the receiving game in terms of, those quick passes out of the backfield going into the flats, ASU should be fine. And, we saw a couple of weeks ago, it is very much possible for Cam Scadaboo to get his third 100 game this season.
Yeah.
So if he does that, ASU is in a very, very good position.
This game has been drawing a lot of parallels all week to the Notre Dame game in 2014, and I know you and I were both there What kind of just excites you just about seeing this matchup in Tempe this weekend in front of a sold out crowd, in one of the biggest games in a decade?
Well, this is what activating the Valley looks like. I mean, there's a palpable buzz around the Valley in this matchup throughout the media. I'm seeing more people in ASU stuff. I'm like, people feel proud about Arizona State right now, which is
Yeah.
something we really haven't seen since that 2014 season. And I think that Notre Dame game is the perfect comparison only because you think about it. Every ASU had started off strong that year. They had a magical win because that was also the same year as what? The Jail Mary.
Yeah.
And so magical start, you get off to 7-1 start, everything's going golden, but nothing had looked legit yet. And so everybody was kind of waiting for ASU, like, all right, are you guys legit? Here's a national title contender. Here, come in here, prove it. BYU up until last week was getting talked about like, hey, they're going to get a first round bye. Hey, they're gonna
Yeah.
possibly be a Cinderella team and everything. They're a contender. Here's the opportunity to punch them in the mouth, and here's the opportunity to grab that conference title race and grab the possible playoff spot by the neck and take what's yours. And so this is special, and I think that crowd tomorrow afternoon, 1:30 p.m., middle of the day, it's
Homecoming.
going homecoming, um, senior day. It is special. It is a special time to be in this program and to be a part of Arizona State and be around it. And I'm genuinely excited. We've talked about this off the air. We're probably getting there as early as possible just to feel the energy, just to be in the
Yeah.
building as everything is leading up to it. And so I'm wholeheartedly excited. And I really do think that Notre Dame game is a good comparison. The number one thing, just don't pull an Oregon State next week against Arizona.
Yeah. No, that would be not good. Not good at
Tucson,
all for
Tucson's
Arizona
not
State.
Corvallis, so they should be fine. But
Yeah, it should be a little warmer than it was when they played in Corvallis that year. But man, yeah, this one's a big one. ASU rocking some fire unis and wearing some helmets they haven't worn since '95, which are pretty slick with the Sparky logo on it. I
yep,
think that also goes to a tribute. Just that was kind of a request from the fans, kind of all over social media, and that attests to more that Graham Rossini just is doing a fantastic job listening to the fans and
yep.
getting their output on a lot of things. And so I think that the fact that he takes so much consideration into what the fans think about the program really speaks volumes.
Yeah, I think what's unique about Graham Rossini compared to other ADs throughout the country is he's an Arizona State guy, Arizona State
Yeah.
alum. He wants to be here. He wants to make it at because he there was a time before he had this job, the role that he was in now, where he was a fan and he still is a fan. He's a fan in the AD role. And so he cares about what the fans want. He cares about what the people want. And I think that's what makes him so special is because most ADs are these suit wearing older people who really don't care. They just care about money. And that's not to say that money doesn't matter, but Graham also understands that, hey, if we are providing the fans a great game day experience, a more convenient one, giving them they want in terms of uniforms, access, this, that, and the other, fans are going to come. I honestly like as much as that's dope, you got to think about it like this. Last year, to park in a parking spot, literally
Yeah.
right next to Mount America Stadium, $40, $50.
It's
This year,
crazy.
Graham said every parking lot $20, no matter what. $20 no matter what. Make it more convenient. Make the game day experience easier on fans and families to come. The tickets, even though ASU has been successful this season, outside of this week's game, the tickets have been affordable. There have been, or even think about this too. What did he add back into the student section? What did he add back?
Yeah. Yep.
They all hope ye who enter here. It's little things like that that matter and that make the fans and make the people want to buy in more, want to be more invested. And that in turn leads to more people wanting to fund NIL, wanting to fund these things, wanting to do it. It all goes together. And so it's beautiful to see.
Wrapping it up, ASU, BYU tomorrow, 1:30 p.m. on ESPN. Dave Pash is going to be on the call. Jacob, wrapping this up. Predictions for tomorrow. What do you got?
It's as simple as this. I don't see a world right now where BYU wins this game. I think BYU is going, I think they're trending down. I think ASU is trending up at the right time. I think they've only gotten better since that bye week. I think they know that they let that Cincinnati game slip out of their hands and they do not want to feel that again. And I think, too, that they realize the magnitude of this game. They know that everything they want to play for and everything they could have is still in front of them. And ASU also knows that they are a Boise State loss away from possibly winning out and getting a first round bye in the playoff.
Yeah.
And so I think they know that with everything on the line, all the pressure and everything, they're ready for it. I think the crowd's going to be rocking. It's senior day. Everything is special. And, before we go, I just want to say one last thing. Trenton Bourget, man.
Yeah.
Trenton freaking Bourget, the ultimate Sun Devil, man. Kid waited his turn. He came here. Single season completion percentage record holder from 2022. Led that upset win over Washington. I know technically because of the NCAA violation and everything, it's quote unquote vacated. You can't take that away. That experience, that moment, getting Sean Aguano his first win as the interim head coach, everything was special about it. He waited his turn. He stepped in last year, had injured, playing battered and bruised, and did everything he could. He's a guy where he deserves his flowers for being the ultimate Sun Devil. And hey, it's a family reunion tomorrow. Trayson Bourget, his younger brother, he's on the BYU roster. He's a backup QB. So the three Bourgets, him, Coben, Trayson, it's going to be fun. I know the Bourget family going to be mobbing deep in Tempe tomorrow, but just really wanted to give Trent his flowers, man.
I'm hoping that maybe like they let him onto the field just to hand the ball off to Scadaboo like once, just to kind of, let him get his sort of ovation and let him have his moment. I think that would be cool.
I want like that. Like if ASU is blowing them out, Trenton Bourget needs to get snaps tomorrow. Like that needs to happen, just for the sake of one last tip of the cap as a Sun Devil in Mount America Stadium. That would be special.
Marana High School legend. Marana's got a pretty big game tonight against Hamilton. We'll talk more about that one. Jacob, always great to have you on the show, and we'll see you bright and early tomorrow morning at Mountain America Stadium, 1:30 kickoff. Arizona State versus BYU, the biggest game of the decade for the Sun Devils. Me and Jacob will be there tomorrow afternoon. All your coverage right here on Hypermark. Jacob, thanks, and we'll see you soon. Always appreciate Jacob coming on the show, joining me here to talk some ASU football. Wanted to get to Joe. Joe said, I feel like a lot of people overlook the fact ASU still needs to beat U of A. How do they keep the ball rolling, assuming a win? Yeah, I think that's a very fair question, to be honest. It would be a very typical Arizona State thing to do to get a big win like this against BYU and then go into Tucson and lose next week. Although I've been saying this for a couple weeks now, just looking at U of A, and just seems like kind of not exactly the dumpster fire, because I don't think their season's been a complete dumpster fire. They've had a lot of great moments, but I just think the way that things have been going for Arizona the last couple of weeks, I think that you just got to look at this game and know that ASU is a clear favorite in this game. And I think that really is the takeaway. I think that you will probably see things like them coming out slow and maybe not playing to their fullest. But that is a very fair point, is that ASU is going to, if they win against BYU, going to need to keep the momentum rolling into the Arizona game. And I think a lot of that is just still staying focused. They know that the Pac-12 not the Pac-12, the Big 12 championship is near, and that they actually have a real shot at playing in their only their first year in the Big 12. So that's something to look out for. And like Jacob mentioned, right, Arizona State is a Boise State loss away from potentially getting to the college football playoff if they win the Big 12 championship. I think that Boise State's obviously, looking at their last two games, Boise State's obviously going to handle Wyoming with ease tomorrow. But I think Oregon State on November 29th is definitely going to give the Broncos a run for their money. I honestly would be pumped to see. I know it probably wouldn't happen, but an Ashton Genty versus Cam Scadaboo matchup would be cinema. That would be absolutely insane. Wanted real quickly touching on some more ASU stuff. Just talking about ASU basketball real quickly. Some great form as of late. Arizona State has won their last 3 straight. Hasn't exactly been the easiest, although there have been some bright spots. That GCU game was really great to see from Arizona State, and then the 2 games this week against St. Thomas, who St. Thomas, really great team, coached really well. I think they're going to do a lot of good things this year. But the Cal Poly game on Wednesday, Arizona State only winning by 4 points against the Mustangs, 93-89, which is just insane. ASU, first of all, putting up 90 points against Cal Poly, I think that's kind of expected, but to let Cal Poly score 89, I don't know about that. Arizona State had like 41 attempts from the free throw line, only made 27 of them. Free throw shooting has actually been one of the brighter spots of ASU basketball's play this season. And this was the first game that really sort of kind of became an issue. ASU ended up making the shots late that they needed to. Adam Miller was a big part of that. I think he had four 3-pointers, and another guy too, Yosan Sannon. I mean, Yosan Sannon, might be one of the better shooters ASU has ever had. I know there's a lot of confusion on him still playing that 6th man role off the bench with BJ Freeman getting the start. I think it's really great. I think it's a good way to motivate a young player who's can make plays and will make shots when you need to. I mean, talk about when he came off the bench against Cal Poly in the first half, he drained 2 shots right away. It was a little fadeaway jumper inside, and then he had a 3-pointer in the corner. So I really like the 6-man role that Yosan Sannon is playing. I think it's smart of Bobby Hurley to get him that juice that he needs to perform well. I think it's unique. And like I said, he's just such a good shooter. It comes so naturally. And the other freshman for Arizona State, Jaden Quaintance, just an absolute specimen. Jaden Quaintance can just get it done on both ends of the floor. He did a really great sequence against Cal Poly where he dunked the ball and then got back down to the other end, got a block, and came back and dunked it again. So, I mean, Jaden Quaintance is going to be really special. I think the fact that ASU has a chance to hold on to him for 2 years is really good. And obviously, the race for Koa Pete is still heating up. So if Arizona State was able to land a guy like Koa Pete and have a guy like Jaden Quaintance on their team next year, it would be crazy. But we got to get through the rest of this year first. ASU's got a tournament coming up in Palm Springs over the Thanksgiving weekend, and then they'll come back home to play San Diego on 3rd of December. So lots to look forward to with Arizona State basketball as they're off to a 5-1 start to start the year. But enough for the Sun Devils, diving into what I think most people are here to watch. Most people are tuning in to hear. Obviously, the weekend preview now also available on Spotify. So if you ever do miss an episode, don't worry. There, I upload them. I try to upload them pretty much right as soon as the video goes down. But obviously, for those of you who are here watching the video, you're the ones that make it extra special. And also feel free if you ever, got any comments or anything, leave them. I love reacting to kind of the chat. I got a little chat on my screen I can look at. And so I always love to see what you guys have to say and talking about it. But moving on to the item of the day, ladies and gentlemen, the Open Division playoffs getting started here in the state of Arizona. And the 2024 Open Division has raised a lot of eyebrows this season with 4 5A teams finding their way in and 4 6A teams making their way in. But now we get to see it all unfold. We're going to break them all down. We're going to start at the bottom of the bracket with the Basha Bears taking on the Horizon Huskies. To a lot of people, the Basha Bears have been the number 1 team in the state for most of the season or all of the season. I know Basha was my number 1 team the last few weeks of the season down the stretch in the Hypermark Media Composite rankings. And I truly believe that this Basha team is special. And I know I touched on it a couple weeks ago, but they've been able to do things this year that I don't think last year's Basha squad was capable of. But at the same time, this is a Horizon team that has also accomplished a lot this season. Ty Ditmore has done a fantastic job with this Horizon team in his first season. They've gotten a couple of big wins. But I think what this matchup really comes down to, and you look at it closely, I think it really will come down to the coaching. I think the experience that Basha has in the open division in games like this, the experience that Chris McDonald's has in these type of games. I think that's what's going to do it for Basher. That's what's going to help them get the job done, as they've been here before. They know what to do. This is a Horizon team who has been on the cusp of the open a couple of times, haven't gotten in. And this year they finally got an open division bid. I think Jackson Murray is going to put up a heck of a lot of pressure on Bash's O-line. I'm assuming he's probably going to get some things done offensively too. Like, Horizon definitely has the talent to be in this game, to be competitive, and to play hard with Basha. But I think at the end of the day, you've got to look at just the type of teams that Basha's played this season, the things they've been able to do offensively and defensively. And one player in particular, I think Noah Roberts is really going to be the key guy on Bash's team to get it done. Roberts, I think we'll have a super big night for the Bears tonight, and that's exactly why I think they're going to get a win. If they could really get him going and moving, I think Bash is going to have no problem against Horizon. It's been a phenomenal year for Jace Ashley and company, for Jackson Murray, for Coach Ditmore, and for him to be able to have this season with these seniors, it's a really special group, and one that I think will be marked down in the Horizon history books. But a lot to be proud of if you're the Huskies. But this Basha team, they're legit, man. And I think the Bears are gonna take this one away and move on in the Open Division playoffs. And for those who don't know, the Open Division playoffs are played. The semifinals of the Open Division playoffs will be played on Saturday, next Saturday, Thanksgiving weekend. That kind of allows people to do what they want. I will not be at any Open Division games next Saturday. I'm going to be down in Tucson covering the Territorial Cup. Yeah, there's that. Moving up on the bracket, we've got 3 big games going down in Queen Creek tonight. One of them a part of the Open Division, as ALA Queen Creek gets ready to host Desert Mountain. I'm not going to dive too deep into this one because I think the Patriots are going to get this done with ease. Britt DeWitt, this is a guy who's really impressed me. Only his second career start against Queen Creek, and he put up an absolute show. He was just killing it all night. He's got 2 guys, Bo Sparks and Kingston McCabe, who really work well with him. And the Patriots run game too. I mean, they have been unstoppable all season. Brandon Brown, Bobby Nesbitt we've talked about them several times on this show, just their capabilities and the way they've been able to get downfield, move the chains with ease. I think that's what it is you look at the run game, and especially when I was watching the game during Queen Creek, they had so many times where they were just getting these chunk plays, but they were so efficient at moving the ball downfield and getting stops defensively. That's another thing. You look at Talon Roy and Brody Michaels in particular, 2 linebackers that made a difference in that Queen Creek game. It takes a lot to slow down this Patriots team. They play at a really fast pace. That's what Rich Edwards likes to do, likes to see his team just ground and pound, move the ball, and they do it very efficiently. And so I personally think we're going to see the largest margin of victory between any of the open games in this game tonight. And I think that ALA Queen Creek is going to walk away with a win in this one. Moving up now to the top half of the bracket, as this one is between the number 4 seed Liberty Lions and the number 5 seed Higley Knights. There's some people that think this is going to be the game where a 5A team upsets a 6A team. I don't think that's going to happen. In fact, I don't know. I haven't really made a decision on how I think the Marana Hamilton game is going to go yet. And I'm still thinking about that as I'm talking about these games. But I've said this time and time again. There couldn't have been a more perfect guy to take over Navi Bruzon's role than Hayden Fletcher. I think it stinks that Higley doesn't get a chance at a potential 3-peat. But it is what it is. Hayden Fletcher, I think, has been so great for Liberty this season that he's going to make some big plays tonight. Although I think that this is the most the biggest test Liberty's offense is going to face this season, specifically with Higley's secondary, with the guys they've got back there. I know they've been a little banged up throughout the year. But I think it's still going to be a good test for Liberty, especially this early on in the Open Division playoffs, for a team that's very pass heavy. But Braxton Huynh, also another guy who's who's really risen to the top this season. He's done a phenomenal job. He's got 851 receiving yards on the season. And you look at this, I mean, these defenses are pretty even. Boston Tilton and Brody Johnson both have 83 tackles. Those are the team leading tacklers for Higley and for Liberty. So this game's gonna be competitive. Is gonna be close. But I think the Liberty Lions are gonna end up pulling it out in the end. Like I said, a bit of a bummer that Higley doesn't get the chance at a potential three-peat, especially with Gunnar Fagrell and what he's done. It's another quarterback that's done an amazing job this season. He's really answered the calls when Higley has needed them most. But like I said, I think this game is going to come down to defense, just with the fact Liberty has been so pass heavy, and Higley has done a great job of defending that throughout the year. But at the end of the day, I think the Liberty Lions are going to get it done. I think they're going to have to find a way to get the ball going on the ground. But it's going to be good. All right, here's the big one of the night. I think a lot of people are looking forward to. I'm not sure how much coverage there's going to be from this one with it being down in Southern Arizona. I'm hoping that some people are down there ready to see this one go down. But the number 1, Marana, taking on number 8, Hamilton. The Huskies sneaking their way into the Open Division in this one, and this is a game that is set to be a pretty exciting one. I'm pulling up some of the stats here. I mean, this is going to be super close, and this is a note coming from ArizonaVarsity.com. Just some Open Division history. The number 1 Open Division seed is 5-0 versus the number 8 seed in Open Division games with a margin of victory of 32 points. I think that that's going to change today. I think you see this Hamilton team. You see what Travis Dixon has done in his first year. I think there were some questions at the beginning of the year when Hamilton won that super close game to Boulder Creek, and still not really sure if that was sort of a thing of Hamilton playing down to their opponent or not. I don't think they would do that. But since the Huskies have gotten into region play, and I know the Castile game was rough, but man, you look at what they did to Chandler. They got a heck of a win against Perry, and obviously their toughest game of the year was against the Basha Bears. So there's a lot to say about this matchup. I think there's fair arguments that either Marana or Hamilton could take a victory in this one. And by the way, just what a career it has been for Desmond Roebuck, who I think is probably one of the candidates in the state for Player of the Year. It's going to be close. It's going to be close. I think that Hamilton's defense is going to have to play a big role in this one. The way they've been able to get the Jandro Bros going. I know, I think it was Bo who was injured for a couple of weeks and came back. The way they were able to get his production going. I get those two guys mixed up, but they know me. They know. I mean, these guys now they're a little. Sometimes they change their hair. Usually, it's based off of who's got the poofier or the slimmer hairs. How you tell the difference between Bo and Nico, but I can never tell the difference. But yeah, so I mean, this game is going to be highly competitive. I think another kid that hasn't been talked about enough this season. Another quarterback, Colton Mayer. 3,330 passing yards on the year. I believe that's the leader in 6A. So he had just kind of had a year that nobody's really talked about. Desmond Roebuck has over 1,000 yards receiving. And this Marana team has done what they've needed to be able to clinch the number 1 seed in the Open Division, and to be able to have the season they've been having. They've only allowed an average of 13 points in the year, and they're averaging 44 per game. So that's pretty insane. But I think this is a game where size is going to take a lot of, you have to take into account the size difference between these two teams. I think that Hamilton's got a really strong and big offensive line that's going to be great, especially if they can get Jacob Brown going early, and obviously providing enough time for Rich Lucero to get the ball out to Roy Oliver. So I think that what Marana is able to do defensively to stop the Huskies may play a tail in them potentially getting a win, and I think that what Hamilton is able to do defensively, you got guys like Jason De La Torre and Marquise Richardson back there as well, who have done a great job this season. I think that's going to play a big part, into what either of these two teams are able to do to get a win. At the end of the day, I think the Hamilton Huskies are going to pull it out. And I think they might do so by 2 scores. I think we're going to see it. We're going to see a shocker here in the first round of the Open. The number 1 seed is going to go down for the first time, and that's my prediction, and that's what I'm rolling with. All right, moving on to the 6A bracket, as I am projecting that the 6A is going to go 4 for 4 in the Open division. We've got some great games here in the 6A conference bracket. First off, the craziest of games from all of last weekend. Castile completing a 24-point comeback in the second half to upset Highland in the first round of the 6A playoffs. I think they actually put up 29. Final score 29-27. The Castile Colts getting it done over the Highland Hawks. Paul Palmer, Isaiah Linier, Elijah Beeman, all clicking in. As much as I want to give credit to the Castile offense for that game, you really have to appreciate what the defense is able to do. Only allowing Highland to get a field goal in the second half. Complete shocker in the first round. Castile doing it without Coach Newcomb, I think, speaks volumes as well. I think when you got a situation like that, you really got to that makes you really think, okay, look at this team and look at the type of leadership they have. And I think that's oftentimes what makes some of these teams in the state of Arizona stick out more than others. And so I think the leadership that Castile had in this one really stuck out in their win. Castile is going to host the other team who got upset in the first round. That's number 14, Centennial. Richard Taylor's never going to go down without a fight. That is 100% facts. You can put it through Twitter notes, whatever. That is 100% fact. Richard Taylor will never go down without a fight. That Coyotes were in full control of this one the whole time against Red Mountain, finally looking like the team we all really thought they were going to look like midway through the season in their 21-7 win over Red Mountain. And the transfers finally showed up for Centennial. Centennial only had, get this is even crazier. Centennial only had 39 total offensive snaps in this game. Kanan Mana, Shamar Berryhill connected for a touchdown. I think that was Shamar's only reception in the game. All around great effort from the Coyotes. Aaron Alvarez tearing it up defensively, 9 tackles, 2 TFLs against Red Mountain. And though I got to say at the end of the day, Red Mountain just couldn't get it done. But man, what a year for Simon Lopez. I hope that somebody gives him an opportunity. Joe coming in saying that game was a Richard Taylor special. Absolutely. I mean, you got to remember playoffs come and Centennial knows it's go time. I think that's a big thing is you can never really count Centennial out in any of these games because of the history Richard Taylor has with his team, and they're just continuation of fight. And so I think if there's any team that's kind of going to replicate the success that Red Mountain had last year in the 6A tournament, it's Centennial. I know 4-7, 3-7 on the year going into the 6A playoffs. People are like, oh, maybe the Centennial team can't do it. You can't count Centennial out, man. You just can't. And this is a team that I think I actually said Red Mountain was going to get the win. So Centennial proving me wrong in this one. It's gonna be fun to watch. And I'm super excited. I'm actually going to go. I think Centennial is going to get it done. I think they're going to get another upset, move into the next round that would have them playing up against the third and final game going on in Queen Creek tonight is another big one with Pinnacle getting set to take on the Queen Creek Bulldogs. Let me just say, I'm so excited to see the quarterback battle between Tate Reynolds and Wyatt Horton. I know Zach Elvira is going to be out there covering that one. So for sure, I will be following along, staying up to date with all the updates. If you're not following Zach on Twitter, go follow Zach because this game is going to be the ultimate quarterback battle of the year. Tate Reynolds, Wyatt Horton. Queen Creek got its bounce back after getting smoked by ALA Queen Creek in the rivalry game. But I think this game's going to be a lot closer than people think it's going to be. It's going to be highly, highly competitive. And I'm actually going to go with the Pinnacle Pioneers mainly because I know Wyatt Horton wants to get back to that state championship. He was there his sophomore year when they lost to Kalen Fisher and Highland. And I also want to see that Centen Pinnacle rematch. But I think the fact that this Pinnacle team, I know I know Dana Zupke wants to get his team back to the championship, and I especially know that Wyatt wants to be there. And so I think we're going to see. I think it's going to come down to which team has got more of a fight in this game. And in my opinion, I think it's going to be Pinnacle. Dean Vincent, Owen Pimbert, two of the best defensive players in the state, two of the biggest dudes in the state that you absolutely do not want to mess with. This one's going to be super exciting, and I'm interested to see how it goes down, especially the quarterback battle. Talking about the game I will be at tonight, and honestly, besides the one I'm going to be keeping updates with, this is the game I'm most forward to looking to seeing tonight. That's South Point Catholic taking on Mountain View. I haven't seen either of these teams all season. I've been very, very high on Mountain View this season. And here's the deal, folks. Andy Litton could have been somewhere else this year. He could have chose a different job, but he chose to be with the Toros, and he has done a phenomenal job. What the lengths he has gone to lead this team and what they've been able to accomplish. Brady Goodman, who in the spring looked like a real, I know he caught a lot of people's eyes because this kid is sharp, and he's got a great receiver by his side in Mikey Sumko. This Mountain View team is special, and the chemistry that Coach Litton has been able to build with this team this season has been really fun to watch too. But at the same time, you look at the South Point Catholic team, and they've got some ballers. Obviously, Morgan Curie, the Western Illinois commit, who's had a really big year, averaging 70 yards receiving a game. He's just got that length, that size, that athleticism that you just don't see from a lot of players or guys from a lot of teams in the state. And you also have probably the most underrated player in the state that can play both sides of the ball, Nathan Spivey, who is another guy I hope someone takes a chance on because he's going to turn into a special player, and he has done a lot of great things this season. And that's my PSA. If there's a college that's still looking for maybe a two-way athlete, maybe a guy that can get things done defensively or wide receiver, Nathan Spivey, absolutely your guy. Watch the film. He has been great all season long. So the winner of the the Mountain View South Point game will face off against the winner of the rematch between the number 1 Brophy Broncos and the number 8 Perry Pumas. Brophy getting it done with a 4-point win in Gilbert the last time these two teams played. Perry winning by a slim margin over Chandler. How about that? Perry getting not only their first, but their second victory over Chandler ever in the same year. That is insane. That's another cool stat to look at. So this one's going to be a fun one, but I think just the vengeance Brophy has after coming off that South Point loss to end the year, I think that's what's kind of going to be their motive in this one's the fact that they do want to get to that state championship, and the fact that they could potentially get a rematch against South Point or face off against a really, really good Mountain View team, who I believe Mountain View's only loss on the year was to Liberty. Somebody correct me if I'm wrong, but I'm pretty sure that's true. So that would be a really exciting game in itself, but I know Brophy is wanting that South Point rematch. Another thing about South Point, this South Point is always scary in the playoffs. And so that's, I think, another thing that's going to present a challenge tonight. Not going to go too deep into it, but want to real quickly talk about the games going on tonight in the 5A bracket. Campo Verde, how about, man, Karsten Lee killing it for Campo Verde. They got a 42-39 win over McClintock and ALA Gilbert North, winning 49-21 over Barry Goldwater. Those two teams will meet in the quarterfinals tonight. In Gilbert, Cactus taking on Raymond S. Kellis. Kellis getting a dominant. I mean, this game was over from the start. Kellis 49-7 win over Ironwood Ridge. They absolutely crushed it. I think the game of the night in 5A is going to be Buena and Verrado. That one should be really exciting, a fun one to watch. And I think the big shocker for me was just how dominant Desert Edge looked over Cactus Shadows last week. I was out covering that game, and Blake Roscoff and Zarek Sidney, those are two guys, two absolute ballers. The leadership that Blake Roscoff has taken this season to be able to come come in and get things done, I mean, it's just phenomenal. Joe's going to be having updates on Kellis and Cactus tonight. So if you're not following him, definitely follow him. That one's going to be a good one. And so Desert Edge will go down to Tucson tonight to take on the Tucson High Badgers, who got a 14-7 win over Cienega. I think Desert Edge is going to handle that one with ease. I'm going to be excited to see if we see a potential Desert Edge Verado rematch, or Desert Edge versus Bueno could be really exciting too. In the top half of the bracket, I mean, just going to be an absolute show in Gilbert with ALA Gilbert North taking on Campo Verde. All right, ladies and gentlemen. Well, it is 5 o'clock. Going to be heading out of here soon. But once again, a reminder, the biggest game of the year here in the state of Arizona between the Arizona State Sun Devils and the BYU Cougars going down tomorrow afternoon at Mountain America Stadium at 1:30 p.m. Homecoming for the Sun Devils. It is going to be possibly the biggest game in a decade, as Arizona State tries to make a push for the Pac-12 championship and potentially go to the college football playoff. So it's going to be definitely exciting to watch. Me and Jacob Sliga will be out there all afternoon tomorrow, getting you all the highlights, all the stats you need, and should be a really fun one. I'm looking forward to watching it, and should be a good slate of college football too as well. I have to be honest, I don't really know a lot of the games that are going down this weekend in the country, because I've been so uber focused on this Arizona State BYU game because it's such a good matchup. But man, I'm just excited to see the turnout in Tempe, to see the sold out crowd, to see what Arizona State might be able to do against BYU. This is really going to be a special game to watch for sure. And I know I think, I'm one of the people that thinks there is going to be a larger presence of BYU fans at the game tomorrow. I think that's something that's kind of expected, but nonetheless, it should be a ton of fun. So, I know Josh Pate's going to be out there tomorrow. It's super cool to see him interview Kenny Dillingham yesterday. He did a show live inside Mountain America Stadium. So yeah, it's going to be a ton of fun tomorrow in the state of Arizona. Cardinals play on Sunday against Seattle. I thought that game was last week. I was just completely wrong. That game is tomorrow in Seattle, and the Suns looking to bounce back. So lots of things going on, but it should be a fun weekend and a fun next couple of weeks. And I'm not sure if we're gonna do a show next week with the Thanksgiving weekend happening. I'm gonna be with my family, and so might not have a show next week, but we'll definitely we will stay tuned to Twitter for updates and stuff about that. So appreciate everybody for always tuning in. It's great to see everybody tune in and give their thoughts and just hear what I have to say. So without further ado, I'm Beadle, and we'll see you next weekend.